Hey, this is Nathan Young, founder and author of How to Be Second, and this is the pilot episode for 1 Second, a conversation between two people with wildly different identities where we're exploring how we're different while embracing that we're better together. In our vernacular at H2B2, I am a second, and my co host, Aramondo Davison, is what we call a natural 1IC. Enjoy.
Do you have a sense of you want to drive, you need me to drive, or we're both just gonna drive when we need to drive?
And let's make our plan. And that is, it feels right when you say it that we both drive.
Okay.
Historically, in our conversations, one of us sets the other person off. That person goes for a while. And then eventually I jump in or you raise your hand.
Okay, perfect. There we go. We got it. All right, that's all we needed. All right, bet.
I know that it would be remiss to not talk about, the core of the idea of like the relationship, right? And so, how I'm going to jump into that is I want to tell you this story that I had a phone call about matchmaking
Okay.
right before this conversation.
Okay. Let's go
I
for it.
did not know that that was what the conversation was going to be about. All of the stuff, it was like textbook.
Mm,
The person called me because they care so deeply about their first in command. I strongly suspect this person is a second. They said all of we call them our watchwords, right? They said all of our watchwords, but they do not want that second in command role because of what they know professionally it demands. They're competent, but they're not interested in the actual like day-to-day execution of that.
okay.
As they were unpacking how it all happened, it was everything that we talk about. I was like, you don't know this because you've never seen our matchmaking page on our website, but you're literally reading down the bullets.
Okay.
They brought in a second in command. They didn't. They It was a standard recruiting process. That person worked for a little while in panic, and they helped stabilize things. And then really quickly, the relationship like never really solidified. So there was that certain amount of camaraderie because they had just gone through something really hard together. But that was all the connection there was. Over the course of a few years, finally, they had their divorce very recently. We call it the divorce.
Okay.
And every classic pain of like, it felt like they were always talking past each other. It didn't feel like they were ever saying things that like made the other person feel better or seen or whatever. And now that they've gone through this, there's this incredible hesitation from the first, who is like, what if I get this wrong again? I don't know if I have it in me. I don't know if my family can go through that. And by family, I mean org. Like, it was just so interesting to me because I was like, oh, we have the answer.
Yeah.
You you're dealing with people. There are professional table stakes, but what you discovered is that if the relationship doesn't work, it won't work.
Yeah, that's spot on. I mean, when you say those words, the first thing that comes to my mind, you use the term divorce, and his response or her response of like, I'm scared to do this again with somebody else sounds so much like an actual divorce with a spouse. And I also believe there's like a season of like healing or rediscovery that has to happen for that person to gain that trust again, in the same way that you just don't go get a rebound girlfriend or a rebound boyfriend, right?
Or you
And
do and you know what happens.
yeah, yeah, automatically, like that's a fail. And so that's just super fascinating that there's just so many parallels to those relationships because that's how intimate that one and second relationship is. And to your point, we are outside of you, I don't think we are talking about that relationship enough and the nuances of that relationship. And hopefully, as we continue to say words out loud, people are like, aha, well, here's one piece of the puzzle. And so maybe that's why we're here. I don't know.
I think there's so much in what we're talking about that is like the core of what we're getting at is we really are better together. I think I see a lot of people who are talking about this stuff. What's right there are places where this is being talked about. So I watch the Mark Winters podcast series that he does called like the Rocket Fuel podcast, where they talk to visionaries and integrators, right? And he really tries to focus on the relationship there. It's interesting because it's a visionary interviewing a visionary and an integrator. And so almost every single time what I watch is two natural one ICs going at it and the second is in the room. And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so at they're never catching the dynamic of the relationship. They're talking about the relationship, but they're usually just it's the host and this other first in command talking at their relationship.
Yeah.
They're never unpacking it, at least not for me. And another person who's talking about this is like Cameron Harold. Of course, he's got the second in command podcast. He interviews the second in command, the COO. I often find that the first in command, the one I, like the first in command, I'll stick with that. That role, the person that is leading the org, they tend to get dumpstered a little bit.
Hmm.
And I'm like, hey guys, as a person who naturally wants to clean up and sort and organize the pile of Legos on the floor, you know what I need? I need a pile of Legos on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're better together.
Yeah. Yeah. If that pile of Legos isn't there, it's like, what are we doing? Because I've already organized all the other Legos around me. I need something. So, one thing that's interesting about that, as I've been thinking of, I'll say the old version of myself and what I thought I was looking for. So, like, let's give some context to a listener, right? There was a season in my life where I knew I needed a second. I didn't have the language though, right? We talked about this before. You put it in your book. Like I was looking for the Sheryl Sandberg. And how you and I met was virtually. Like literally, I opted in to Coalition 9 to meet a person that could fulfill that role. The interesting thing about the story, and again, how I feel like God works, is the human, Tony, what's up, Tony? The human Tony, who Aaron thought I was supposed to meet, was not there the first day. And I was like, oh man, darn. And then we hop on in our group, and I don't know what joke you said, but I was cracking up. And I was like, that's the guy, right? Like I just knew immediately, like, oh, this dude is it because his dry humor is so funny. And while I'm cracking up, everybody else is looking like, I really didn't think it was that funny. But I'm just like, yo, that was a classic gem right there. And so when you note that divorce piece, right, and like how hard and challenging that can be, the opposite is also true. And when two
Mm,
humans have that matchmaking spark moment, when it's genuine and pure, I do believe that it is just automatic, as if you just found your partner in life. And so you and I have been on a roller coaster journey since we've met. However, I still think that there has always been this connection like one day you two are going to come back and do something for however long or however short, like this relationship is going to come together. And so, man, I just wanted to say out loud, like, how grateful I am for your trust in your path. And then also just being a supporter and be like, yeah, Mondo, your path isn't my path right now. And I don't completely understand it, but like, I'm still going to support you and have your back through whatever you're going through because I trust one day it will come full circle. So I just wanted to say that out loud. I think that was important.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, I'm like, so same thing from my side, right? Because once again, we're recognizing when you and we became fast friends. And I don't just mean good friends, I mean good friends fast.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, the thing about that was, I think there was like a mutual, I felt this. There was a mutual, like, I want to understand you. Like, I want to know you, whatever that looks like. And that,
Yeah.
right, the first several conversations we had were not professional in capacity. They were like, that person, something about that person, I need to know. And uh that has never stopped. And that, I think, really importantly, like, this better together idea, so often this is looked at just exclusively professionally. And you and I got side by side for a little while professionally, and then not for a little while professionally. And our relationship has stayed strong the entire time. I've been like, no, no, no,
Agreed.
no. I don't think you understand. That guy is A, my friend. And B, if he's like, I have this idea, I'm going to be like, okay, what is mine to do? like, like,
Yeah.
because I trust this person in that way. And like, I believe in their gifts and abilities. I believe in their natural tendencies in the same way that I'm confident in mine. I'm confident in yours. And so, like, whether that's this podcast, whether it was a business thing, whether it's let's go on a walk, right? Like, whatever the idea is, there's a part of me that I'm like, lean in is the answer. Like,
Yeah, man. I mean, even you have used this Lego analogy, right? Like, I need some Legos. And my natural predisposition is here's a whole bunch of Legos, right? like, hey, Mondo, how are you going to do this thing? No idea, but it's that way. And so having a second, but I'll use Nathan Young specifically, having Nathan Young as a partner in that dynamic duo, I also have the confidence and peace of mind. Like, there's not a Lego in here that Nathan has not seen. It may take a minute for him to figure out where it goes, but there are no new Legos.
hmm,
And so I can continue to go and do whatever it is I have to do without having to guess, like, does he have the competence and capacity to put together the Legos? Like, that's not even a question. What's what's so dynamic about how I see you is you'll find a Lego and you'll be like, well, this Lego actually breaks up into 16 different pieces. and, and I'm like, yeah, I have no desire to know those little pieces. So go for it. However, you want to rearrange those 16 pieces. And the beauty in that, right? The trust that each human is going to lean into their gifts and each of us not fully understand what the other is doing, but knowing that the yin and the yang is necessary for the thing to work is just, it's so dope.
yeah, 1,000%. One thing that I wanted to poke at, because I was telling people like that we were going to do this, we were going to have this conversation. I was like, what would you be really curious about us unpacking? And no one can help it. And I get it, including me. And it's something you and I have brought up before. And that is like, why don't you feel like more people can't find this?
Yeah.
And so, like, why, first question first, why do you feel like people don't find this more often?
So I was on a walk the other day and I was thinking about the beginning of the movie The Accountant with Ben Affleck.
This literally has come up 3 times for me in like the last 10 days.
Great. We're supposed to go in this direction, right? The dopest scene of that movie is right in the beginning when the Nathan is putting together the puzzle. And Nathan is putting together the puzzle upside down. And that goes to my point where I'm like, he doesn't just know the Legos, he knows the Legos in any direction. He can make this puzzle work. However, he puts together the 99-piece puzzle or 100-piece puzzle upside down, but one of the pieces fell under the table. And the character's getting super frustrated because he's a finisher. He needs to complete the thing. And then the other gal comes and picks up the piece of the puzzle and it's just like, here. And I tell that story because from my vantage point, I believe God's like, I'm not giving one person all the power.
Hmm.
I'm God. I have all the power. So no matter if Nathan can put together 99 pieces and I'm going to give the other piece to Mondo, or it's 95 and 5 or 90 and 10, like it doesn't matter. No human is going to have all the pieces of the puzzle. And so like that clarity hit for me and I was just like, that's dope because I have no desire to know the 99 pieces. I feel special knowing that I can identify the one piece that completes the puzzle. Like, just in general, that just brings me joy. Like, we can't figure out this thing. We got all the pieces, and God's like, all right, Mondo, I'm gonna use myself through you and say the thing. And I'm just like, yo, that's dope. That's just a dope experience to me. So I bring that up to answer your question that I don't believe people are self aware enough to know if they are the 10 in the 90% or the 5% and the other, they need the other 95 or whatever. Like, what are they going for? So for me, like, I want it to be the enigma in the story. Like Nathan can know 99.9 pieces of the puzzle. Just give me the point one. Like, I just always want it to be that character in the story, but that means that I am reliant
Mhm.
on the person who has the other half. So people who are not able to find that other person, I would be like, you haven't found them because you're only 70% good at what you're doing. Like,
Hmm.
you haven't even fully developed yourself enough to find a second who has 90% of the puzzle, right? Because like a 70-30, like that's a cool team, but I feel like neither one of you are A class yet, right? Like Nathan has 90 pieces of the puzzle. That's A, right? Like that's A grade, and I got the other piece. And so, like, until we get to a point where we become the best versions of ourselves, we are getting somebody else who is a contrast to our yoke. And eventually, if you're not at least 90-10 in a relationship and you're trying to do something big and bold, I believe it's just not going to work because that isn't the partnership that's necessary for that rocket fuel, go to the moon moment. And so that's just my own belief on how I see the dynamic between that relationship. And that's all I got.
That's so
So,
funny to hear you talk about it like that because I feel exactly the opposite. Where I'm like, I can make a plan. I can make a plan for anything. Like, oh, put the puzzle together. Yeah, no problem. I've like, give me the pieces. I'll do a thing. No problem. I'll invent the thing. Like, that is easy. Here's what's hard. What does it look like? Why am I doing it at all? Right. So I feel like I have the transferable skill. I feel like I have the who cares. Like the piece that I'm doing is 10% important. why we're
Mm.
doing it, what the purpose is, what the vision is, what's the end thing, why are we even here, what are we doing. That's the 90% to me. I feel like I have 10%, which is okay, cool.
Wow.
I'm just going to do this real quick.
Yeah.
And you have the 90%, which is anything that matters. Like,
That's so fascinating. Wow, that inverse is true. I mean,
yeah.
and maybe that's why it works, right? Like neither one of us are walking with our ego in the front saying, I'm the 90%. This is my way. Because I'm like, no, Nathan has a 90%. And you're like, no, Mondo has a 90%. And it's just like, between the two of us, we just trust that the answer is there. Or, I mean, I guess for me, it's not even the answer. I would say that's a big part of my growth is for me now, it's just like, what's the next best step in the story? As opposed to trying to solve the problem. I'm like, Nathan can problem solve better than I can. It's my responsibility to be the guide to take the right next step. So, yeah. I
One
don't know
other
if that
thing,
answered. Go ahead.
well,
Sorry.
let me tack on to that just a little bit. And another thing that popped out at me that you said that I was like, no, I'm coming back to that. You said when it's like 70-30, like we're not quite at A on either side yet. And you said a lot of that has to do with like how willing I am to be self aware. Because what you said is like on your side, it's 90-10, and you've got the 10 and I've got the 90. That's because you are so self aware of what you are good at, what you are willing to do, where your energy is. Like the, you don't need more than that to be fine.
Agreed.
I'm on the other side and I'm going, I know myself so well. I've done the work. It has not been easy to release a lot of the stuff that supposedly makes me valid, that gives me validation.
Yep.
I don't need those pieces to feel like a whole person. I'm fine carrying my bit and going, this, I'm fine. I'm me. I'm the whole me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't, I don't need that thing that you carry to also be who I am and feel valid. I don't need it anymore. That is a crazy journey to go on. Like that is, it feels self-indulgent, self-aggrandizing, whatever the word is that's like makes me, I'm painting a better picture of myself, but there's a certain amount of like, yo, I've done some hard work to get to the point that I just said.
I mean, so I don't, it's clearly not the whole game, but it's definitely a saga is complete once you get there, right? Like when you were saying that and you were reaching for that word, I was thinking of Maslow's hierarchy. It's like that's what self actualization is. It's like you've reached the pinnacle of yourself. It has nothing to do with anything outside of you. You're just like, I am Aramondo Davison, and that's good enough. And if there are some more things that you want to layer on top for me to like serve others so they can become the fullest version of their selves, great. But like I don't need the applause. I don't need the more trophies or whatever. Like I am fulfilled just sitting here in this spot having a conversation or doing a project with other people that are also fulfilled because then everybody on the team is a selfless servant, right? Like it's just a different I just feel like it's a different game. I remember I was having a conversation with somebody one day and they were just frustrated a little bit with how life was unfolding. And I was just challenging them like maybe you're supposed to play a different game, like not change the actual sport that you're playing, but like shift your mind so you're playing a different game within the sport. So like I know you and I like Lasso, like because it's just great storytelling. But I feel like Lasso wasn't playing the game to win. He was playing a different game. You can decide what game he was playing, but like winning was secondary to him. But I believe that's because some humans in that one spot, I like to believe I'm one of those humans, already believe we won the game. And so if God is like, I'm also going to give you this trophy in this secondary game, cool, but I might give you second place. Well, that's cool too. The idea is just like helping others that are participating in the game with you experience the game even more with more glory, with more grace, with more happiness, with more joy. And so everything about how I show up now is like, how do I make this story better for the people around me? And as I'm focused on the relationships, whatever the tactical stuff is, well, the second got that. I mean, I don't even got to think about that. Like, oh, he's building an engine for the rocket to go to Mars. I don't know anything about engines. So, like, why am I even thinking about that? However, I need the humans that are going to get in the seat to fly that bad boy to Mars. I need them to be healthy enough that they don't faint at takeoff, right? And they're fulfilled. And so, anyways,
I love the lasso analogy too, because I mean, we're circling the exact same idea, and that is it really does come down to who you are as a person and like how that that drives your relationships. And this dynamic is a relationship. Once again, professionally, it's still a relationship. And just like my wife and I have a relationship or my kids and I have a relationship, like what I bring to that defines what kind of relationship we get to have. And I'm thinking about Rupert, the character in Lasso, right? And I'm like, his whole sense of self was defined by the stuff he had, especially compared to others. And anytime he lost that like ability to go, look at this thing that I have, he lost his own validation. Like he didn't actually have his own sense of self worth. It was
agreed.
all wrapped up in all of this stuff that he lorded over other people. That was his whole arc. And I'm like, and so like Nate, which is extra funny, I see this character arc a lot in myself in this Nate character where Nate is like also doing that. He's like looking for his validation in others desperately. And anytime that he can't, he latches on to people to find that validation, tries to do a really good job to maintain that validation. His dad, his team, Ted, the other, right? And then when Ted is giving validation to other people, not just him, bails on that. Rupert tries that one, like is willing to do whatever it takes to get that validation. We basically don't see him come back and start living the best part of his arc until his girlfriend finally confronts him and is like, "What the hell is your problem?
Yeah, yeah.
You're fine, dude." Like when it comes from here, you'll be able to have a good relationship with other people.
So let me ask before we pivot to the next question, would you say for you as a healthy Nathan Young, was it little bits of sand and eventually you just realize one day like, oh, I'm here? Was it like defining moments? Was it after you went through some big wars and it was just like, here's a third, here's another third, like how or when did you come to become this version of yourself? I don't even know if I'm asking the question clear enough, but clearly there was an arc of hard stuff and you navigated it in a way that you are here now. So like can you speak to a piece of that journey?
Yeah, I would say because we are, I believe, the core of our identity is what we are stuck with, like trees. Like, okay, whatever kind of tree. I'm a maple tree. I'm a maple tree forever. but you can shape how a tree grows, right? The art of bonsai is literally to carefully sculpt the growth of this thing that will always be what it is at its core, but you can, it's art. And so you're working with living art. And so I think about myself and other people that way often, where I'm like, you are sculpting living art. This thing is what it is, and it is going to grow. You are stuck with the core of what it is, but you can do a lot of shaping for better or worse. I was not a healthy tree for a long time. I really think that the core, like, I would say the first half, really like the first half of my whole life, years wise, was being upset pretty often. And like that story you told about like 99 pieces of the puzzle and then one was missing. I think I was that person at the table who constantly was just furious that I was missing one puzzle piece. But the other thing was that I think I found a lot of validation in myself about having all the pieces. I was supposed to know everything. So the idea that there was one missing was me missing validation. I couldn't get it from somewhere else. I had to get it just from me. And I burned some bridges along the way of it. Like, so the story of the self work and the mature person is one of stupid mistakes and torn down relationship. Like, I did dumb things and got really upset at a lot of people in my past. A lot of people don't believe me when I say stuff like that because they're like, Nathan, you like that's not the way you move in the world, and I'm like, not anymore. You destroy a planet or two, and then you get some remorse in there. Like, um, maybe I'm making it sound worse than it is, but that really was the first half, and recognizing that, constantly having people around me who are being like saying stuff that drove me crazy, like be softer or be whatever, and it felt like they were trying to say be more nice, and I was always like, nice isn't nice. Nice is just passive. What they were trying to say, but didn't have words for, was kind. You can be straightforward, you can be direct, and that can be kind. Nice is nothing or passive or whatever, right? If we want to, if you will allow me to define the words in the conversation to explain myself, I didn't understand the distinction at the time. Through those burned bridges, and then through finally having moments, I would say substantial moments, it really was like, here's a bucket of cold water, here's a bucket of cold water. Not, I think people were giving me the little bits all along the way, but I didn't see that until I had the shocking moments.
Yeah.
And then I was able to sort of put it together. And only in the last probably 6 or 7 years have I really started the journey of feeling like I had any sense of self and validation within myself where I was like, well, I'm me no matter what. And that is good. And I think I'm me no matter what, I was always kind of okay with, but that is good is not something that I was okay with. And the
Mm.
idea of this like 90%, 10% of going, I'm me, I'm not everything, and that is good, probably kicked off when I got married. And I just had to face it every day, no matter what,
Yeah.
and be like, man, I'm so not those things. Like,
Yeah.
and thank God. Like,
Yeah. I mean that clarity, again, that self-awareness is such a it's such like a bump on the head initially. And you're like, ah, like, dang, like, okay, I hit my head on this ceiling. But then after you go through it and nurture and surrender some of those habits and agreements, I would say that I look back at myself and now I'm able to laugh and I'm like, oh my goodness, bro, like you were. a character, boy, I tell you, because there's some things that I've done to your point, which I would say was more just on the manipulative side.
Mm.
Like I didn't always know all the things, but I knew how to frame a story in a way so you believed in my side just long enough for me to get my way. And so releasing that habit and starting to tear down, like, Mondo, you're not always right. And choose to agree that, like, I'm not always right for somebody else, but I am always right for me. And so I had to find peace in knowing that whatever God was telling me to do, and I believed 100% that I was supposed to do, was right for me. Yes, and it likely wasn't right for anybody else around me, even though it made so much sense for me. And so, like, I found myself in a, like, now I call it the lone optimist, but like, I found myself in kind of like a lone wolf, like, nobody else is getting it. And I'm trying to, like, solve everybody else's problems. And I had to recognize that, like, I wasn't called to do that. I wasn't called to solve anybody else's problem. I had to find out who I was, to your point. Like, and once we find that fulfilling peace, and we don't need anything else outside of us and we're finally full, man, it's just a different game. It's a different story, man.
It's
So
funny to hear you say it that like what because I'm like, wait, we're both saying the exact same thing, but we just showed up different in the world.
exactly.
Yeah, that's funny to me. I want to unpack this thing maybe together, right?
Okay.
I'm going to try to set something on a plate in front of us or put it on the table in front of us and both of us can unpack it because I don't have an answer.
Okay.
Question is, as important as the relationship is, what are the table stakes or how do you recognize the table stakes of being at a level of professional skill? When do you think there's give or take on that? What's more important?
My immediate response is two things are true. Uh, one of the like breakthrough seasons in my life that you're aware of is when I started watching The Chosen. And it was a crazy breakthrough because growing up I used to like admire like Michael Jordan, right? And I was just like, all right, he's the best in the world at basketball, so there's my North Star. And then when I became a parent, I believe that my dad is the best parent that a human could ever have. So I was like, oh, okay, like my dad is my North Star on like how to parent because I love the person that I have become. So I was able to like look at that. But when it came to business and just like how I felt I was supposed to show up in the world, there was no human that I aspired to model. And that's why I always like art towards like MCU, right? Or Superman, because I was just like, there are characters in these fantastical stories that I feel like live outside of the normal predisposition. So I bring that up because I had very Superman type energy, and the misstep that I had with Superman was out here trying to save everybody. And then when I watched The Chosen and I recognized like, well, the era that Superman has is, well, Jesus already saved everybody. So like this sprint to go try to save the world is not your responsibility, Mondo. Okay, bet. Now that I released that, how I see Christ is the only role model that I can aspire to be like, because there's nobody else for me to look at and be like, I want to be more like you, right? Like now I can see an archetype and know that I can never reach this level of perfection, but I can always aspire to be more merciful, right? Or be more kind or be more compassionate and surrender certain things and be a nomad and just serve just no matter what. Like Jesus was the model for that. I want to embody a lot of those qualities, but I also don't want to be Jesus because he died on the cross, right? So, like, cool, there's a hard line somewhere of what I'm not willing to do, right? So, I bring that up because one of the things that I am trying to understand as you are asking that question is in a professional sense, how do I show up with these characteristics and lead as a CEO, as a executive, as a philanthropist, as a politician, right? Like, how do I lead with these Christ like characteristics when the rest of the world isn't operating with those key, like, fundamentals that I'm trying to embody? And honestly, my response is like, I don't have an answer except for can I do what I feel like is necessary for me to do unapologetically and model those behaviors and trust that God's going to give Nathan the tools for whatever the system or structure is necessary to keep us going in this direction. And like that's all I got. Like I got to trust that I'm supposed to continue to embody the characteristics of this type of heavenly human experience and know that like God's going to deliver through everybody else around me and I just got to continue to be that model no matter what. So I don't know if
This
that
is,
helped, but
I think it's incredibly helpful, and this is why. Because my head, I didn't have a pre-planned answer to this. I dropped the question. It's something that I had sitting over to the side, and my head started going. As soon as I asked the question, my head started going in a direction. You went in a direction I could not possibly have imagined. And so now I'm going to say my direction because it's I think it's a good indicator of the contrast between how the brains work.
okay.
And I think that there's something intense here in that like this is very a one I see second type brains situation. When I ask the question and you answer it that way, right? My brain immediately went to, yeah, I think the relationship is really important and understanding yourself is really important. And then I want to dive into like, actually, there are some table stakes professionally. And you do need to have certain expertises in like, there is a skill set and you need to be developing active skill. So like the ability to put the puzzle together upside down from your reference earlier, that's not necessarily a natural, you might be naturally gifted at that, but you need to put reps in. You need to build 1,000 puzzles.
Yeah.
Within the building of 1,000 puzzles, what you will develop is skill. You'll start with talent, and with practice, you will eventually get skill. And I think there's other components to that, but my answer was very like, I think there are table stakes. I think that it's wonderful if you're naturally talented, but there's a fundamental difference between saying, I can do that, and that's what I do. And the reps and the war that you have seen are like, because I think there's four parts to skill. I think there's talent. I think that plays it's a multiplier effect, right? Jordan clearly had talent. LeBron has talent. Sure, those are incredibly talented human beings. There's practice. You actually have to put the reps in. Again, both which Jordan and LeBron have done. There's technique. Because if you're talented and you practice in a stupid way, then like you're gonna right like so there's actually understanding the techniques. What are some of the best practices? What are some of the skill sets? What are some of the whatever? If you're a P&L owner in a professional sense, like if you don't know what the four financial statements are, how to develop them and what they're actually supposed to say and how they're supposed to work and how to communicate that and how other people are supposed to be able to understand information from those things, like you don't have the technique down. And if you haven't built 100 of them in practice or in reality, then like it doesn't matter how talented you are. You can savant your numbers all day. At the end of the day, like, can you communicate these things in a way that other people understand them? And then in a way that is understood. already, like within the and then the last one is war. Have you been to war? And like, have you had a person show up at your doorstep and be like, it's nice that you have the technique. It's nice that you did the book learning. It's nice that you practice. And it's nice that you are, that you're naturally numbers inclined and all of these things. Right. Now, give me the shit because I need a credit line. And
Mm.
we're either going to get the money or we're going to not get the money. And like, so I think there is a, no matter how amazing your relationship is, no matter how talented you are, if you haven't developed real skill, you still don't get to own your 90%. Like that, you would still be sitting low on the percentage. You're less than an A in this situation, in the relationship. Like you aren't bringing yourself. It's not just about self reflection, it's also about have you done the shit? And that's incredibly important. The way your brain took that question and the way my brain took that question, I think is maybe our first like hilarious division to say very similar things.
And I think there again when I started, I was like, that's the that's the hilarious secret sauce to me. Because if I'm like, yo, Nathan, I got an idea. I think we're supposed to build an amusement park that competes with Disney. And you're like, okay, let me go find all the tools and qualities and people or whatever that it's going to take to build this amusement park. And then you're like, where are we going to put it? And I'm like, don't worry about that part. And I think about Jesus saying, if you believe enough, you can move that mountain from here to there. Like, like my role in the story, and again, I'm not trying to tell somebody else to try to be me because I'm me, right? Like I went through my war to believe this level of belief. So, like, Mondo, what do you do better than anybody else? I believe more than anybody. And so, my belief is as soon as Nathan has created the plan and found the people, and everybody said go, it will be there. How? No idea. But God is going to part that Red Sea, and we'll be like, huh, I guess that's where we're going. And the reason why I say it that way is because that unknown experience on how that thing happens that way is what brings me so much joy in life because I know it ain't got nothing to do with me, right? Like it's not like Mondo solved this problem. And so I had lived life so long solving the problem, trying to save like Superman. And I got exhausted doing that because nobody else was getting what I was saying. And I was like, yeah, bro, because it's not your plan, right? Like God's will is going to be done regardless if he's going to use you or this guy, Jason, around the corner. Like somebody is going to be in a seat, to your language, right? Servant, right seat. Somebody is going to be in the seat that champions that amusement park. Mondo, it don't have to be you if you don't want to believe. But if you do, you can definitely sit in that seat. And so, like, I just continue to choose to say, God is not going to be like, Mondo, I wasn't able to put you in this seat because you didn't believe enough. That will not be the answer. He could be like, you didn't have enough skill or talent or technical capacity for this seat, and Nathan has some other stuff to do. That's cool. I'll accept that L, but it's definitely not going to be you didn't believe. So, like, man, I love how you talked about the other side going in that opposite direction because that's why I feel with so much like conviction. Like when you're going that way, I'm like, all right, Nathan, I'll see you later. And I know you're going to come back with all the things necessary. And I'm going to be like, here's the one piece. So let's go. So, anyways, that was
That's
good.
really funny. And also the same on the other side. Cause like when you're saying it's not going to be my belief, right? Like, okay, there's lots of ways that I would be willing to say that I'm not ready yet, but it won't be this way.
Yeah.
I feel exactly that on the other stuff. where I'm like, my belief, whatever. My, like how big my ideas are, whatever. How much skill I have, my ability to like put together a slide deck, it won't be that. That won't be the thing that stops us. I'll make sure of that. And you're like, what?
Yeah, man. That's so, man, I don't think you, so, you and I always talk about the Bruce Wayne and Alfred, right? Like, because that dynamic duo is so familiar to folks. And like just in real life, just two humans having completely different opposite gifts on the spectrum. Like I really truly feel like we are sitting in these seats balanced. Where we're going, no idea. However, it's just like, let me find two equally yoked humans to do a thing. And like, I definitely feel like we're sitting in those spots. And so this is so dope.
Well, you're touching on
What?
a big question that got dropped for us to like tear apart. And if you have the relationship and the business stuff doesn't work out, is that the end?
Mm,
And before you and I would have said, well, yeah, that's probably the end of that story, right? Like I mean, typically as a second in command, you come in and then sort of like the person, whoever you're working with, I like to use the term serve. But whoever you're serving at that time, like that's the thing that you are doing. And I've spent a lot of time like volunteering, and I think that's really important. And also like, okay, we're pushing that thing forward as far as we can. And then eventually, for whatever reason, that won't be what I'm doing anymore. And like, that's the end of that. And historically, I sort of do. I have my relationships fall off in a pretty substantial way. Like, if I'm not actively working on that thing, then I'm kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to find my next set of relationships in the thing I'm actively working on. So that arc is kind of over, even if it's not a bridge burnt.
yeah.
um that arc is kind of over. Like we don't have a lot of reason to be thinking about that part of our relationship. That's probably a little bit more Nathan particularly than just like seconds overall. But I've had people ask that question of like, okay, so like, but what if you find this relationship and then that business thing doesn't work out? What happens? Like, do you just drop that like a hot rock? And between you and I, it was one of the very first times that I was like, I think you stay friends and who knows what happens in the future. And this is my very first experience with that. So I'm curious how you would also respond to that because I have found it shocking. And also, we are here having this conversation right now. And also, like, we are young men. Like,
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
so many years and so many things that we may do yet. And so I'm like, oh, now I have this relationship with this person I implicitly trust as this human being and this kind of human being. And like, we've discovered so many other ways that we work out, that we work together, that we hang out together, that we whatever. And then like, here is a thing that we're doing. So anyway, that same question on your side.
So I would definitely say hindsight is 2020 on this response. So when we first started working together, I had a vision and a direction. And I was just like, if I have this person, this second, the COO, which happened to be you stepping into that spot, if I have this person, every single thing is going to fall into place because I understand what I am not good at. And as soon as we connected, I do feel like that spark was there, just relationships as humans, as you said, right? Good, fast friends. And for there to be like a shift, and instead of going this way, it was like, psych, right? Like for that to happen, I was like, it's definitely not a product of the system that was being built, right? Like I was confident that like we're going in the right direction, but clearly this isn't the right time or the right thing. But my question was, well, God, why though? Right? And the reason why I say hindsight is 2020 is because I now recognize that the flaw in the plan was myself. And I say that with all humility because the direction that I was trying to go in had nothing to do with God's plan. And it was something like, I have had this vision to conquer the world for so long in whatever way I saw fit, the most audacious big thing that I could possibly do. Like that was my plan. When I look at the world now, and this is no knock on these two humans who I'm about to say, but like Donald Trump is recognized as arguably the most powerful man on the planet. Elon Musk is recognized as the richest man on the planet or wealthiest man on the planet. Those two characters in the story are already there. And so the thing that I was going after was like one of those two characters, right? Just like those seats. And God was like, it's not where I want you to go, bro, but you're not listening. And so I'm going to have to take you away and have you experience something that's going to force you to surrender these agreements that you have made about yourself and your plan. And because I went on that path, I'm now coming full circle and being like, oh, Nathan, here we're back to do this thing together. And I have a different compass this time. Wherever I was leading us before, we would have fell off of a cliff. And then our relationship would not have survived because you trusted me in a way and it was the wrong way. And so
Mm.
honestly, man, like I believe that for a lot of first in commands, if your relationship or that business failed, you may want to first reflect and be like, what about me am I not equipped to handle? Like I might think I can handle it, but like am I handling it in an unhealthy way? Like where am I imbalanced? Where do I need to work on myself so I can actually shoulder the thing that God is trying to put me in position to carry? And so man, I don't know if that fully answered your question, but man, I look at myself and reflect so much now on like I'm so grateful that our relationship paused at the time that it did so we can come full circle right now and I can be in a more healthier spot. And I also believe like you're even healthier in who you are. And so here we are.
Yeah, I didn't even have a poster then.
I mean, even like when I think, I'm just like, yo, if God dropped us in the middle of a challenging environment to run something right now, and Nathan had to hire 40 seconds to run a thing, you would be like, I got him. Like, you have access to those relationships where 3 years ago, right, you would not have had the access and those humans trusting you in the way that they do now. And so, like, just so many things needed to mature in the story on the tactical side and growth and human, and then just on like direction for me. Um, it's such a fascinating experience. I just look at everything like a story, and until you become that peak version of yourself, the healthiest version of yourself, you're not going to experience the dopest story.
All right. I think we will honor the stuff we just said and I'll drop it right there. I'll stop this and then we can talk about other technical stuff or whatever.
Cool.
Hey, it's Nathan again. If you made it to the end, that's awesome. I have a couple ways you can go deeper if you're interested. If you resonated with the way that Nathan talked about himself and how he sees the world, Nathan is me, you might be what we call a second, which is an identity, not a role. We have a couple ways to dig into that curiosity. You can take our Am I a Second assessment on our website or howtobesecond.com/assessment. You can grab the book, How to Be Second, from our website or Amazon or almost anywhere you like to buy books, including on audio. If you resonated with Mondo, or you'd like to resonate that way, but you're feeling stuck, you can find Mondo on LinkedIn by searching for Aramondo. That's Aramondo. Mondo deploys his natural one-eye-ness to support people who are stuck in themselves and their thinking to break through towards their biggest ideas and their self in a casual setting like a walk or a phone call. If you're inspired by what we're doing here, you can support How to Be Second at howtobesecond.com/support. Thanks again. I'm looking forward to our next conversation.